All right.
And we're live.
Yeah, we're live. So it came up on Twitter and came up on YouTube and everything. So today we have Matt Burton with us. He's one of the developers for Haven. How are you today, Matt?
Good. How you doing?
Can you just give us like an intro about yourself and kind of your background, if you don't mind?
Sure. But how deep do you want me to go? So
Um, Kind of surface level. Just take a few minutes and explain to the community what you've done with XX and kind of your background and everything for those that may not know.
sure thing. Okay. So, I've been a developer now for 10 years, and 5 of those I would say is on XX and XX related products. And Haven was the latest project, and it focuses more on quantum security and having that for messaging. And I'd say for me, I really identify with the mission a lot. So I was real happy to being involved the role as I was, and for as long as I did.
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of talking earlier about some topics to discuss. One of the topics that we thought of was just the ethics of privacy. And what are some initial thoughts when you hear privacy and just ethics in general with privacy?
I think personally the way that I think about it is I like to reflect on my life and things that are important to me personally, right? And I was somebody that was involved in protests and stuff like that, and in my own country, and which is Canada. And so for me, freedom of expression was always a pretty important thing. uh so privacy to me was always really important for people that had something to hide from nefarious actors when they take primary control. I would say um, that they're the primary governments. I would say when they turn bad essentially, and you have something to hide from them, but not necessarily something to hide from the general population.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about how much power that the government has, and then you pair that with all the technologies, and then we're digitizing everything, right? So not only is your life pretty much digital, but your bank accounts, right? Your money is digital. There's so many forms of ways to kind of track and trace everything that you do. It's
Yeah,
if somebody has a problem with you, they could pretty much crush you like a bug. So
true.
I mean,
And I don't think that government really paints the correct picture here. It's a corporate industrial complex. It's really an amalgamation of all the corporations together that uh, really control everything. That no government could ever expect to have that form of control. The government control a lot of times. Well, in very good, well orchestrated environments, they need to go to due process to get a lot of the control that they would dream of having, that a lot of uh, the corporate entities now have. The governments have to like ask politely to have this sort of carte blanche in as far as like uh, being able to see everything and having all the information on everyone at all times.
yeah, I mean, it's not like you said. They don't ask politely. They just say that if you don't do what we say, we're going to crush your business. I mean, There's
Yeah.
Google and Project Prism, right? There's like an office at AT&T where NSA agents just tap the phone lines and they're just recording everybody's phone calls. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like you said, due process, right? If I do something wrong, they have to submit that evidence to a judge in order to get a warrant. And that's not happening. And you'll hear more and more law enforcement talk about, well, if you have nothing to hide or, oh, you look nervous, right? There's now these cameras that they put up everywhere on the highway. So, like, cops will pull over people and they know exactly everywhere they went just from the cameras that are on the highway. And then they start asking you questions. And if you lie about something, they know you lied. And then they just, do you mind if we look through your car? And if you say no, well, we have to get the dogs here and start sniffing around.
And all these things are amazing when you have a system that works efficiently to root out, evil and everything that everybody agrees is bad. Is just when it gets in the wrong hands. And people, they're really fast in dismissing that until it happens to them. And do you know of any situations where well-intended securities and measures have backfired recently?
Yeah, I mean the whole C-19 thing, right? Like that was pretty bad. Everyone was
C-19 being
2020. The word is often scrutinized if I say the word, but the pan fill in the rest. It's when everyone was sick, right? That's a well-intentioned thing. They wanted to
yeah.
make sure, they want to make sure everybody was healthy, right? But
Yeah.
that's not how it worked. And people that were protests had their bank accounts frozen. People that donated,
True. In Canada, may it be known, as a Canadian, truckers in Canada, they got their bank accounts taken down, and this is a big thing for crypto, right? Because I want to say this now, and I want to make sure everybody understands. Being in control of your money is enough. We don't need that much DeFi. Being in control of your money, full control of your money, is a lot. And people try to sell you on a lot of things because people got to keep working. But a lot of the proponents of crypto are very active right now, and they all work in tandem. And they're a lot works already. We don't need that much, and
well,
that's maybe a hot take as somebody that works in the industry.
It's true. It's like meme coins, right? Like a lot of the market's focused on things that are just dumb, right? And they allocate a ton of capital towards things that, there's probably better things in the priority list. But I mean, the market's always going to be the market. It's always going to sniff out stuff. But I had a friend that was a multi-millionaire that donated those truckers like $50, and he had his whole bank account frozen after that.
Really?
Like, he was so pissed off
That's
about
crazy.
it, and rightfully so. I mean, like, that's was pretty nuts. And like it was really strenuous on the banking system. Like I'm pretty sure that they backed off because they knew the whole banking system was going to implode at one point.
It reminds me of one quote: "If your money can be turned off by the turn of a button, then you are not free." And I really believe that. And for a lot of my friends growing up, I'm a fringe actor. I'm somebody who believes things that are really outside of what's normal, and I feel like that's unfortunate because I'm really preaching really normal things,
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I got into crypto is I'm like more libertarian oriented. I want everything to matter the most as far as freedom's concerned. And like we've been talking about, it's being eroded to a point where I'm pretty sure just it's like a brainwashing thing. Like people are
It's
so
the frog,
focused.
right?
Excuse
the frog
me?
analogy.
The boiling
frog
frog.
analogy? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's I mean, like if you look at some of the papers like the CIA has disclosed, this is all intentional. I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's true. There's a lot of effort that goes into shaping public opinion, and that's very intentional and by design. So it takes a lot of courage to want freedom. It takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. And we saw this in crypto, these grassroots seeming movements, because right now in crypto, we're basically monetizing having a tribe. This is crypto is monetizing tribal attitudes. So are we part of the same group? Are we the Bitcoin group, or are we the XX network group, which signifies something, right? We really care to an extreme degree privacy. That, you know what I mean? Like that's one of the tenets of the XX network group, right? We're really monetizing tribal groups. That's what I think, anyways.
Right. And I mean, like, we were talking earlier about certain lines, right, with privacy, right? And since it's a tribe, right, there's certain lines that could be crossed where the entire group gets together and say, you know what, we can't let this happen, right? And you start unrolling things from that lens. I mean, I always think there needs to be a strong level of privacy, and as far as law enforcement is concerned, they should always have some type of warrant. But can you think of anything that would possibly cross the lines that would unite the whole tribe to want to unveil some privacy?
Yeah, that's a weird intersection of because there's I feel like privacy really comes into play when you have really strong actors. If you're against a big entity, any big or corporate entity, because if we collectively right now we're on a lot of Google's platforms, right? So Google is a very easy target to exemplify, and they can't just squash us. You know what I mean? Just bam, fuck you guys in particular, and then not ring some alarm bells somewhere. It starts on the outskirts. It doesn't start with us. You know what I mean? You don't want to be if you're them, you know what I mean? It depending on who you censor, it tells a lot to other people what your agenda is, right?
Sure.
And for that reason, we're safe now. But we don't know that about the future, right? So depending on the agenda of your tribal group, privacy is really important. When I would say how strong your opponents are. If you decide as a tribe that this is a mortal enemy to your values, then how strong that opponent is, I would say the stronger, then the more important privacy is.
Yeah, I mean, so with the lens of Google, right? Do you think that Google actually wants to be the one that has to violate people's privacy, or do you think
No.
it's like right?
No.
If it was outsourced to a tribe, if it was outsourced to a decentralized community, I think that's the best of both worlds. And I really see a lot of these multi-billion, trillion-dollar corporations at one point just washing their hands of a lot of stuff like GDPR, right? The regulations in Europe. I mean, a lot of these companies are being fined if it was just embedded into it was just a protocol that they used, and we're not in charge of that. You got to talk to those people over there if you want to invade people's privacy. I think that's probably the best of both worlds. I think, Google and these large corporations are complicit, but I don't think that they actually want to do it and want the stain on their reputation.
No, they really don't. But it's about, general attitudes, right? So you talk about the L-19, right? And certain aspects became very normalized very quickly. And to me that was really scary, you
Hmm.
know? And who might your opponent be in any small little situation? Those opponents might not be there the very next day, and opponents is really just, ideologically different, uh, you know, just people with ideological differences,
Hmm.
which in the end, you should never see them as opponents. They're waiting to be converted. You know what I mean? In the end, the very basics of humanity should always apply. It's I believe that everybody has a right to a good life and taking care of their family and etc. You know what I mean? The very basics of life. Those are what we should really focus on and make sure that it happens. And then all the extraneous stuff, is if we can be really convinced that anybody's against those really principal values, and I would say that the only time that we've ever seen that happen is really, in class warfare, you know,
Hmm.
where our well-being is a threat to higher profits. That's the only time I've ever seen it happen.
Right. I mean, it's funny that because if you look into like how the Fed is structured, like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about profits, right? It's really made up of regional Fed banks, and then those regional Fed banks have
What
stockholders. They're
what is a
big
regional
banks.
Fed bank?
The Federal Bank of New York, Federal Bank of Kansas.
Okay, yeah, because
So
so disclaimer, I'm a Canadian, so I know a lot about
Bank of
the
Canada.
the U.S. System, and I know that the Federal Reserve is not federal at all,
Yeah.
as much as maybe Fed Express is the very same thing. I've heard that talking point a lot of
Well,
times from like as an outsider.
the theory behind it though is because since the Fed is a private entity, that they could do the politically opposite of what politics want. They would do something that would annoy politicians, and that's why Fed
Mm,
governors outlast presidents. Presidents' terms are
mm.
4 years. Fed governors are 12 years because they're
Fed
supposed to do the
Fed
hard.
governors. What
Yeah,
what are Fed governors?
they vote on what the policy should be. So Jerome Powell is one of the Fed governors, and then there's
Okay.
what's her name? There's quite a few of them, and they have to vote on everything before they put the policies out. But my
Mm.
original point, though, is that you said profits, and really we're in this weird. Um, it's not exactly profits. It's more of just like money printing and moving balance sheets around to make for the illusions of profits, but it's not really
Sure. Yeah,
actual
yeah, yeah.
value
Number
that
go up.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
if anybody in here or anywhere there is a gamer, we know number go up feels great.
yeah.
We know that
The,
shit.
yeah, the nominal values. They just always want the nominal values to go. And it was
Yeah.
private entities that did all of this. So and they continue to do it to a point where, I don't think that there's a way out of it at this point. I mean, a lot of people are hopeful, and so am I, but I don't think there is. I'm pretty sure the Bank of Canada is also structured the same way with
Well, I mean, Mark Carney. So I don't know too much about the guy, right?
mm,
I am very hands off because I don't live in Canada, but I heard that he was, WEF, World Economic Forum, a very big participant in that. and
Yeah, he was. Well, he was the Bank of England's governor,
yeah,
and then he moved to. Oh, he was originally Bank of Canada, then Bank of England.
crypto. We're supposed to be mortal enemies with these guys, but I feel like a lot of the talk that's been happening in recent years has been, and like speaking from somebody that's been, 8 years in crypto, 100%. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not not like just like I decided this year to just be full crypto. You know what I mean? And then I don't always want to be full crypto. Our reputation right now is absolutely garbage globally, and it's so unfortunate. You know.
So, what have you noticed the entire crypto environment turning into since you first got into till now? What have you noticed?
Oh, Jesus, what have I not noticed? You know what I mean? I feel like the very beginning of the field was so damn hopeful. We had a lot of nerds in there. It was this really innocent field. You know what I mean? It was not political at all. We had aspirations. We had aspirations of the very present moment that we're living in right now. We never thought that shit would ever happen. And when we had inklings of it happening, we got really excited. We thought that like crypto being global and everybody knowing, because I'm in Thailand right now. I could say crypto to a random ass person, they'll know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To somebody that's ever been from the very beginning, how crazy that was. We were a group of fucking nerds.
Yeah,
We were.
I got in at like early 2017, like February area, and I same thing now. Now, if I say something like just even mentioning somebody that people don't like, they start trolling me. They start saying, I unsubscribed. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and it's just having them exposed on the channel, just them saying their talking point in a video. People get really upset and very polarized. It's weird. I've noticed people were
that
more.
polarization,
Yeah,
honestly, came from later on. We can get into it, and I know a lot of the actors that were very much responsible, uh, and I'd love to talk about them.
sure.
You know what? Let's just fucking dive into it, because like I'm really so sick of it. This was a central point when I worked I worked with a company, and some good friends that I made from a defunct company where the CEO actually fucking exited and try to scam everybody. He was a gambling addict, but within that company, we were in the midst of a very big turmoil that was endemic to crypto in general. And in 2017, I think that's when it happened. Um, the the attempted split from Bitcoin Cash, and I'm interested to know what, if you were there, or if you thought about it, if you were at all involved or knew what was going on.
I got the airdrop for Bitcoin Cash, but I wasn't like.
Yeah, no, everybody that had a Bitcoin balance had Bitcoin Cash. So
Yeah, I didn't. It took me a while to like really, kind of understand the technology to a degree where I would be able to be active within discussions with Bitcoin Cash. But now that I know more about it, from what I understand is that the majority wanted smaller block size, yet the core Bitcoin core developers push for the larger block size, and that just makes it more expensive and slower, perfect to kind of pump the price. Is that right?
well, so I really understood it very differently from my experience.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. So Roger Ver, I don't know if you know about him. He was really attacked a lot.
Yeah, he still
Uh,
is.
yeah. He's now stuck in Spain right now.
Yeah, he's
I don't know if you know
looking
that.
at a lot of time too. He's looking at like 20 plus
Yes,
years for tax
but
evasion.
he's been stuck there for a while. So
Mhm.
they, you know what I mean? He might not even, he might be there for like a few years. You know what I mean? And I reshared his latest video. I have his book, and I wanted to read his book. I really do. But the thing is I lived that period of time. I was in the throes. I was there. So you can't sell me a book telling me what I experienced. You know what I mean? It's just I really I supported the guy, and unfortunately the book that I bought was a fucking bootleg. So I'm sorry, Roger Ver, and I really I really want to support the fuck out of you, and I really respect that the fuck out of everything you do, anything you're involved in. I want to be a part of. So what if we're talking about what happened in 2017, which I think is the year. I could be wrong, right? So if you just want to Google that shit right quick, make sure that it's
Yeah, it was
2017.
2017 or before 2017 was the talk
Yeah.
between everything. I think.
So essentially, what happened is there was a big rift in the Bitcoin community, and a lot of it had to do with uh, Blockstream hiring a lot of the developers, and they had a mission. They wanted blocks to be constrained, and that constraint was very temporary. They uh, Satoshi wanted to restrain the block sizes to as a temporary measure for just spam, and it wasn't meant to be a long term thing. But unfortunately, what happened is the weakest element of Bitcoin was its developers. That's that's the same central point, because like Bitcoin could be decentralized, but the core developers are a centralized force on a GitHub. There's no how do you uncentralize that shit? There's no way.
Can you say that again? The core developers are only on GitHub. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're sharing their code on GitHub. That's all centralized.
Right. Oh, so it's centralized just because of GitHub, or it's centralized
Well,
because
I mean, it's centralized because of GitHub, but yeah. So if there was a decentralized version of GitHub, then maybe that issue would have been or that central point of failure would have been different.
okay. All right.
It's not a fault in Git itself. It's really just how we use Git. We really use Git in a very centralized way, and that's really standard. You know what I mean? Like that's not. I don't think anybody's complaining about that.
Right. It's doing what it's designed to do, but for something.
Git is a it's a something that it's a way to save software, and you can choose to use GitHub or GitLab, right? But yeah, it's really centralized. But I'm saying that central point of failure of Bitcoin is that it's all being committed to the same central repository.
Oh, okay.
That if you're an external actor, that's where you would attack,
Mm.
right? You would. These are very human people. They're very few. They're very few people. There's not that many people. Like why
Right.
why would you attack that? That's the weakest link is the developers. There's just no until the crypto really solves that, and it's so stupid. Why don't people talk about this?
So if anybody that created the repository or works on the Bitcoin repository, if they were attacked, right, their credentials were attacked,
Mhm.
does that expose Bitcoin to anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it exposed it to the extent that everybody else agrees. So the nodes still have to agree to upgrade.
Right.
They still have to agree to it. So, there's a very political element there that, we never even thought that, all the politicality comes out
Right.
from, you know what I mean? Like we never thought that these elements would be weak points, and then they are. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're
That's
just
everything.
nerds working on a fucking digital currency, and then suddenly we're like, holy fucking shit! Everybody in the world knows what the hell crypto is. And then suddenly all the weakest little links suddenly become political points now.
Right.
Which is insane. But this is where we're at. And now people are against crypto. Are you against money? If people steal money? If I steal money from you, do you feel like money's a bad thing? But everybody's like, and that's how you know that we're still in the very beginning of crypto. It's crypto in the sense of cryptographic money is still synonymous with money and currency.
Right. Right. And I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but like like you said, are you against money? The whole banking system, the whole financial infrastructure is used off the same encryption, so it's like once quantum becomes a reality, all this encryption like needs to get updated and needs to be updated quickly. And they're making really advanced progress. They've last thing I saw was they're able to tie two quantum chips together with fiber optic cables and make like a modular design. So with something like that, then you just create a bunch of chips and plug them all together to create it. So there's a new BIP. They're trying to upgrade Bitcoin for post quantum cryptography. Did you ever look at that by any chance?
No.
Anything
Anything that's and I wish I didn't have an extreme position, on everything Bitcoin, but because of what Blockstream did, and I was inkling into that before and yeah, they're very political reasons that I don't support.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off? Did I cut you off before? What were you saying about block?
No. I just got I'm neuro whatever what you call it. I'm ADHD. So yeah, I'm ADHD. You know what I mean? I can get into I can get real heated about something and just forget about it in 5 minutes. But yeah, no, I don't believe in I've had really big political beliefs about Bitcoin, and a lot had to do with that fork of 2017. I believe that crypto should be peer-to-peer money, which I think Satoshi originally intended, and the fact that this is even a fucking political fucking thing is so fucking retarded for me. And I'll use the word retarded. Anybody that's offended by that, you are a detractor. Like, we're talking about really serious things,
What did Block Damon do that you're getting at? What did they?
Blockstream?
Yeah, Blockstream. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Blockstream, essentially, they were the ones that hire up all the developers, the core developers.
Oh, okay.
And so the block size debate was really the iron rod that people were able to rally around, because the main argument was that if we keep the block size small, then everybody can run a full node because of size constraints. So you could have an SSD, stuff like that, but typically storage has followed Moore's law. So we've typically had very large with technology, we've had a almost like an exponential curve as far as but in the interest of decentralization, they said, okay, well, it's going maybe faster than that. You know what I mean? And they wanted to essentially say that let's they wanted to basically say that storage is the one thing that's not going to enable Bitcoin to decentralize. They said that full nodes are the ones that are validating all the transactions. They
Hmm.
said that, you know what, that thing specifically is the one thing that is going to be the demise of Bitcoin. And my argument is that was not the case at all, at all. And that's why they ushered in SegWit, segregated witness.
Hmm.
If you know more about that, that's a more technical aspect of it. We'll talk about it maybe later. But that was the Trojan horse, essentially.
So it's like when I originally explained the block size with the core developers and the larger amount of developers were looking for smaller block size, that was from Roger Ver's like partner or something. Like he that explanation came directly from him. So it sounds like you're in favor of Roger Ver, but you're not in favor of small block size. Is that correct? Is that what?
No, I'm not in favor of small block sizes at all, and I
Yeah.
don't think Roger Ver was in favor of big block size. That's why he
Oh,
was a
maybe I'm
Bitcoin
confused.
Cash. Yeah, he was a big Bitcoin Cash proponent, and the whole fork was to change the block size to, I think, 8 megabytes, but it might
Mm.
be 4. But even now, current Bitcoin is still on 1 megabyte fucking block sizes, which
Oh,
is
all right.
never intended.
Yeah, I flip flopped it. That's why I'm flip flopping it. Smaller and larger block size. I'm thinking smaller block size for cheaper fees, and it's the other way. You're saying?
These aspects, you know what I mean, and these are really complicated technical aspects that
Right.
everybody, and these are really fundamental things and in the history of crypto that a lot of people in the industry don't even know about.
Right.
This is really lightning rod moments, really political moments that I had the privy to be a part of and to see unfold, and they largely don't matter in me getting hired. You know what I mean, or me taking care of my family, and I was there and I saw these things happen, and you know what I mean, like we're the workers, we're not the founders, we're not doing,
Well,
you
you
know what I
want it to
mean,
be decentralized, right? Like the whole point of the technology is for it to be decentralized. I like the
yeah.
arguments where it's like, you know, uh, pro centralization. Let's just figure out these problems and do it in a centralized fashion. And that's the antithesis of everything that crypto is supposed to stand for. So I'm wondering if like Filecoin or any of the distributed data would work for full history nodes on Bitcoin. Would something like that like complement Bitcoin, and they're just being complete maxis and villainizing all altcoins, or really they could complement each other and kind of converge into something beautiful?
I mean, that sounds great to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like super deep about Filecoin. I don't know. The only protocol that I know about is the Interplanetary File System (IPFS). That's the
Mm.
only system that I'm really aware of. I know that Filecoin is trying to do something that's similar to that,
The
and
data, they're trying to decentralize data, really.
yeah. I just don't. I know about their mission. I don't know how successful. I'm not in the weeds, right? So
Well, ICP would be another one that would be able to
Yeah.
decentralize data. My point, though, is more of if the industry didn't have so many barriers up, and like if you got rid of the people that are really pro Maxi, if if that would end up being a better result than everybody just working in silos and almost as
Yeah.
I don't know.
But really, what's unfortunate to me is that these rifts can happen inside of a crypto company. It's just you know, I remember an investor from one of our companies, and he thought that Lightning Network would solve everything, and
Yeah, fair.
you know what I mean. And I was just like, oh man, I wish I could explain everything
Yeah.
to help you understand that that's a really centralized
He
thing,
uses
and
Tether,
it'll never
right?
work. This was a very long time ago. Like, where's Lightning?
Yeah. Well, it
And
uses Tether, correct? Right? Like, doesn't it use Tether in the background?
I don't know about that. I've never heard of Lightning. I've read or seen a lot of how it works, and I've never heard like Tether. Tether is USD on the Ethereum network, so I've never heard of it being used
Let me see.
on Bitcoin.
Oh, maybe they just support Tether. Maybe I got it mixed up.
Yeah, maybe the company itself. Yeah, that would
Uh,
make sense.
I'll look into it later. I could have sworn I saw that they were like using it on the back end from like moving large amounts of capital
Possibly, but
from one exchange to
Tether, has its whole host of problems. People thought it was going to implode a few years ago, and I'm surprised it hasn't. USDC, to my knowledge, and to my willingness to care about it, has been the better option. But I'm actually. It's almost like you're bewildered. You're like, damn, Tether has lasted this long. Well, shit, it's probably good. Whatever.
Well, so Tether, Cantor Fitzgerald is now their backstop with Tether, so they're able to. They said like before Sam Bankman-Fried got arrested, he was acquiring a ton of Tether to try to depeg it.
Yeah.
And since Cantor Fitzgerald's a Fed bank, they were able to backstop it. So they gave them like 20 billion in cash, and they're able to give the cash. So I think it's a world of difference compared to like 2017, even 2020 compared to Tether today. But yeah, and if you recall, USDC did depeg. Well, Tether didn't. So I mean, honestly, I don't even.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it depegged at one point. Shortly after Luna depegged. The banking crisis. What was that called? There was one of the banks, First Republic, or one of the ones, the Silicon Valley Bank.
I need to look into that then.
Yeah. Well, I think they're more conservative now, but like when you try to venture out into like the decentralized stable coins, DAI now is like 70% backed by USDT and USDC. So it's like, there really isn't decentralized stable coins. So, I mean, I believe in using stable coins for a very short period of time, not to be like a piggy bank or anything. It's, it's meant for like payment purposes or trading, right? It's not meant for very long periods of time.
Do you mind if do you have a sponsor or something like that? I need to hit the bathroom real quick.
No, go ahead.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah,
well,
I'll talk about
that
this.
then.
Yeah, I'll talk about. So I wanted to share my screen and go over a couple of things that I'm seeing. So if you look at all of the quantum computing equities, they're currently like yesterday with INQ, for example, is up 40 something percent. You look at qubits, you look at D-Wave. A lot of these companies are surpassing all-time highs. I'm anticipating some type of like we saw with AI, like what we saw with artificial intelligence, right after the Chat GPT moment, we saw the market really receptive to the technology, and a lot of the crypto assets that specialized in AI did well. And I'm thinking that's going to happen with venture capitalists and other investors are going to start looking into crypto for quantum resistance. And there's only a handful of coins that are associated with quantum resistant technology. And that's why I mentioned the BIP standard before. They're trying to do a hard fork with quantum resistant encryption. And if you're unfamiliar with quantum resistant encryption, there's ECMDA and there's Watts Plus, right? There's the two different types. And basically, quantum computers, if they know your public key, they could kind of figure out your private key. And that's the danger. If you are new, you should go to quantumdoomclock.com. Let me see if let me stop and reshare. But anyway, Rick created Rick Carback from XX created it, and currently the estimate's at March 8th, 2028 for quantum computers to be able to break asymmetric encryption. So I think we're getting closer and closer, and as we get closer and closer, a lot of there's going to be a lot of interest coming into the crypto world for quantum resistant technology. And like I said, I can only think of Algorand, which is collaborating with the XX network. There's Cardano that's collaborating with the XX network, right? There's not many coins, and if there are, they usually reach out to collaborate in some way. There are lower market cap ones, right? There's Cellframe and QuantX, which I believe is partnered with IBM, which looks interesting, but not very many out there. So I think the narratives are going to change, and you're going to see a lot of
how much about the math that you know about this? Because I remember, I've worked very closely with Rick and love and appreciate everything he does. But he sent me this link, and I'll be really honest. I'll be real. I love the guy to death. I looked at this and I said, maybe I have a doomer mentality, and I thought, you know what, shit's already fucked. You're showing me something that this looks like the iceberg's already melted. We're all fucked. Fuck it. You know what I mean? If somebody that's on the inside. So what are we talking about in terms of like the mathematic? Do you know about if you scroll a little bit down, there's a link for the math. Do you have the layman's terms of like?
I asked Rick like how he got these numbers, and he said he's pulling it from like public databases, Wikipedia included, to try to estimate this, but it's a rough estimate of when they would actually be able to do it, right? So this is showing the number of qubits, but what I just talked about with you a few minutes ago about having fiber optics kind of bridge a bunch of quantum chips together, like how do you account for that within these public data feeds, right? There's huge advancements that take place pretty much overnight in the quantum industry. So this could be even faster. And people from like what's that guy's name from NVIDIA? He was saying he's expecting it like 2030. I think he's underestimating because it looks better for his stock prices if they try to keep everything under wraps, and they're already.
Yeah, but anybody that knows anything about just a regular XY chart could look at this and think, you know what, things are accelerating. You know what I mean? I don't even know what this data means, and I can look at it and say, you know what, it looks like things are almost exponential here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that last jump there is really high, and if this stays the course, this is really exponential. So what does that mean?
So it's supposed to be 5,000 qubits that can break RSA encryption. Maybe 6,000. Some estimate 10,000. But right here, it's saying this jump was we went from 50 qubits to 1.1 thousand qubits
Yeah,
on
so
that.
we might already be here.
Right. And I mean, so it's not just the qubits though, because you look back and you can see there's 1,000 qubits jumbled in here. It's the error rate as well. So that's what
And
Willow.
what does RSA encryption being? So if that's
Any
the
encryption that show,
decryptable,
yeah,
what does that mean?
any encryption that shows the public key, right? The quantum computer will figure out the private key. So it doesn't have to be RSA. It could be anything as long as it's asymmetric.
No, but
Symmetric encryption.
RSA is a big component of, you know what I mean, all the potential services and everything that could be disrupted, right? A lot of things use RSA, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep, financial industry. That's why Deloitte and
yeah,
KPMG or G
and
are.
SSH, which is a very big core component of server security.
Hmm. Yeah, they're telling everybody to have a roadmap to migrate to newer encryption
So
systems.
how safe is ECDSA then?
That's one of the that is quantum proof. I think that's what
Who's-
that's the elliptical curve digital
Yeah,
signature.
yeah.
So
That's also but Bitcoin. So
oh, okay. Yeah. I think no, I think that's vulnerable too. Anything that's got a public key or anything. So um there's what I I was reading the quantum BIP thing, and it was bringing up ECDSA cryptography. So that's why I was thinking that was what they're replacing the encryption with, but it sounds like they're replacing it with QRAMP, which has been introduced by Augustin Cruz, which is quantum resistant address migration protocol.
okay. What's the link? Can we
Yeah, let me put it up.
maybe
Sorry.
yeah, put it up.
Which I reached out to this guy too, so I'm seeing if he'll come on the show. For some reason, I'm getting a lag when I'm trying to hit present. Hold on a sec. Share. Present.
You're from Texas, right?
I'm originally from New York, but now my accent's gone away and it's become more southern with a draw.
Oh, go draw.
Yeah, they say insurance weird. A draft Bitcoin proposal suggests a network-wide migration to post-quantum cryptography.
Sure. Yeah. The thing is we need, you know, when I'm reading this, right, I'm thinking, yes, but if we end up with cryptography that has a backdoor, then Bitcoin's fucked, right?
Yeah.
If we don't know about what the fuck is this and what the hell they're introducing, if we don't have trust in the cryptographers, then we're doomed. And if anything, my past experience, my past 10 years experience in crypto means anything, I would say we're fucked.
Right.
I don't want to trust. The whole fucking trustlessness part of it is crypto at its core. And the fact that we have to trust new cryptography is already, and you know what? This might be in the best of faiths. You know what I mean? But I am showing where people would maybe be resistant to this idea.
Well, that's we're talking about full history nodes. My thinking is, Bitcoin community is very slow to do anything, right? Like, look
Yeah,
how
yeah.
long Taproot and SegWit took. Like, I mean, if 2028 comes around, we have 5,000 qubits and they're not migrated already. Like, that's going
Fuck
to be
it.
a problem.
Yep. Leave. To me, if you're talking about my own thoughts and feelings about the matter, it's way too late and you need to migrate.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's my opinion. You know, of a web developer. Let's be honest. I'm not in the weeds. I'm not in the weeds of any of these protocols. I'm somebody who lived through these you know changes, I guess. Who is a crypto user? Like who has been in this field for 10 years? Not that many.
Um.
People get burnt out, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of people lie too about how long they've been in, in crypto. I just think, I don't think there's that many. I think we saw a real boom happen, like, once Bitcoin hit like 50K, that's where we saw a ton of people, and then, you know, a lot of the stuff that, like, meme coins, right? Like, the quality of the developer was dropped too, right? Like, when developers are working on NFTs and meme coins, they're not the same devs that are creating their own blockchains from scratch, right?
If I knew that, if I had more confidence in myself back in those days, if I knew that, the things that I know now, and the understanding that I have now about, how decentralized systems even work, you know what I mean? Like, because I know how Solidity works. I know how the EVM works. Like, these things are not crazy. You know what I mean? They really sound complicated. But once you actually put your mind to it and learn it, it becomes really, it becomes simple to your own mind. But like in your own kind of like thinking that, oh, it's going to be too complicated, you've already lost. You know,
Right.
uh, I feel like anybody's listening to this or that but wants to, you know, you you can do it.
So, what Ethereum's supposed to switch from EVM to a different standard. Have you read much about that?
I have not.
It's like RISC or something. I think it's risk something. They're supposed to be moving from EVM to something else. But it's funny, like, most of the crypto industry like copied EVM and then they're swapping over to something new.
Yeah. Well, that seems typical.
Yeah.
Everything how else that happened. You know what I mean? Honestly, the you know what I mean the what I'm seeing now is just Solana really being a key player, and my own coworkers at Access Network really being against Solana, but not really giving me good reasons to either distrust or. I've looked at Solana and I've looked at the way that they do like the so I was tasked with looking at Solana and in kind of like a data analyst position, right? So
Hmm.
I was tasked with a company where they wanted to know who's depositing to these addresses and why, right?
Hmm.
And Solana has a very distinct way of denoting that data that I'm not familiar with, and I thought it was so foreign, and it made analysis hard for me, but I didn't really understand it, and I'm so curious to know why it was structured that way. You know what I mean? And maybe I haven't asked that question. out loud, or you know what I mean. But because I've had a lot of people really, Reddit in particular, they really don't like Solana.
Mhm. I one of the arguments that I know of is that like the full history is on Azure, on AWS, like a lot of the
So the
memory.
nodes themselves are on Azure, and they don't like that.
Yeah, well, the data from the nodes, I believe, is on cloud services. That's why when you see some of the cloud services
But
go down, Solana
only on
goes.
that service.
I don't know it like super well to make the argument, but I know that that's one of the arguments that I've heard for it.
That just sounds like a data provider issue. You know what I mean? Like any sort of, okay, so like if the everybody who was participating in Solana just decided, yeah, we're gonna be on Azure. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
full consensus. We're gonna be like, hey, all of us, we're all Azure boys. If you're not on Azure, then you not belong. Unless there was something protocol level that was prohibiting people outside of Azure to participate. Then
I
I don't.
I think what it is that it's since it's cost effective to host full history nodes on Azure, that most of the full history nodes are on Azure, right?
Okay,
So
but
so
that sounds
there's
like they're being competitive. Then Azure is really good for this use case, or am I
mm,
understanding wrong?
um well I just think it's cost effective, so you have like a
Okay,
concentration
so they're
on.
competitively good at it. That like it's competitive advantage to be on Azure for these nodes. Then
Yeah, yeah, I guess if you want to word it that way, but
okay,
I think yeah, that's one of the arguments that I know of, and then
okay.
breaking down,
I
and then
didn't know this
also
argument, so
the
I like that you told me that. So thank you. I didn't know that.
yeah, I mean I'll look for other reasons for you. I have Aaron knows a few of them too. If you reach out to him, he's got a
And
whole.
and some people might have the trove of information that I have about your split. You know what I mean, for 2017,
Yeah.
and I
What one of
I keep harping about.
one of the other things that I personally have a problem with is that like a lot of the VCs got into Solana and like
Mm.
there was a wealth concentration with
Yeah, yeah.
tokenomics, and it was like only one of the few coins
Okay,
that's
so
gone from.
they got that in that shit early,
Yeah,
whereas a lot of crypto is in really grassroots, and you
mhm,
know.
right.
I really don't know a lot about
A lot
Solana.
of the VCs like require new projects to create on Solana. Like they don't even want to fund stuff that like since they've already invested in Solana, they're like
No,
forcing the
but
hand
that sounds good to me
new
so far.
investment. You know, um,
Yeah,
well, I mean, it depends how you look at it, right?
may sound centralized, or it may sound like, yeah, they're trying to encourage innovation on the platform.
Right. Well, I mean, it depends how you look at it, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I try to. I prefer when, like we were saying earlier. I want things to be decentralized. That's where the value
true, true,
is.
true,
But
true.
I mean,
And if I'm undermining anything that we're trying to, any point we're trying to make here, then let me know.
no, not at all. I'm just explaining the arguments that I've heard. To
Mm,
me, also like it's at a large market cap, so like the investment opportunity, for me is kind of like out the door. What
mm.
at its most, why would I
Yeah,
invest in something that's already in hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap? I want to find something
true,
that's
true.
under
Yeah,
a billion that reaches up to hundreds of billion.
yeah, and at some point I had fuck, I don't know, a
A
couple
bunch of Solana.
thousands. Yeah, I had a bunch of Solana. Nothing that's really meaningful. Depending on what people think is meaningful. Maybe
I
a
mean,
couple $1,000. Like it wasn't enough to sway my opinion. on the project.
Yeah, I mean, they went from like a $10 million market cap when they were first launched. I remember Circle announcing that they chose Solana for USDC. And
Unfortunately, it became the biggest part of my portfolio, and that was not a conscious decision. It was just I had them, and then they became valuable, and then everybody started hating on them. And for me, I'm a very big fan of the HODL mentality, and I think that it has a lot of popularity because of what really the strategy entails is you're a dumbass, hold it. You're a dumbass, hold it. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy on a lot of cryptos. I'll buy it and I'll never goddamn touch it for years and years and maybe decades. And I haven't sold anything in a very long time.
Oh, that's good for since you own it. It's a winning mentality. So is there any other points? It's coming on like an hour. So is there any other points that you wanted to point out or discuss or anything? Any last ideas?
Free Roger Ver.
Free
That's
Roger
a big
Ver.
point.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I agree with that. I mean,
Free Roger Ver. I love the man, and I think the XX network in general could do a lot, and just lending our voices to, because we were able to with Ross Ulbricht. He was pardoned recently.
Yeah.
And this is momentum that we should be using for Roger Ver, and I think that we should definitely do that. Reach out to me, man. Send me a message. I don't bite.
Yeah. All right. I'll close this up, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Boom and pow. Thank you.